Hello, everybody. um, I've got a hat on today. 'Cause it's bad hair day. Bad hair day. Okay, let me just share this to the right group. Just a minute, please. Thank you. Share. Okay, let me free up some bandwidth here. Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Okay. Hi, Cassandra. Hello, this is Ella here from Author Like a Boss, and I am here to talk to you guys today about how to build your author website. And I have to say, it's not as hard as you think. Yes, I do look warm, and my hair looks better with this hat on. I'm a little bit behind on stuff, but I'm gonna put a hat on for everybody because you guys can't see my crazy hair. Okay. So today, you guys, if you're watching this somewhere besides the Author Like a Boss Facebook group or page, please come on over. Author Like a Boss. We are a really fun community of authors. So no matter what you write, if you are going to Author Like a Boss, you need to have an author website. Building an author website is the best way for your ideal fans to consistently know where to find you and what's going on in your world, in your books world. Okay. That's why this month I am talking about how to build your author website for newbies and everybody else. Okay. So who here has thought about building a website but stopped because the tech was scary, or you didn't know what to put on it, or you just didn't know how? If that has been you, you're like, I can't. Let me know. Like, yes, that's me. This used to be me as well. And I don't remember if I mentioned this, but I didn't know anything about websites. And then I moved to the Silicon Valley and I was like, oh, shoot. I better learn something about tech fast. I'm like, everybody here knows more than I know. So then I made my first little baby website with HTML and everything. But you don't have to. Preview, you don't have to know HTML or anything like that to build a website. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the basics. Like, we're talking about the vocabulary and the terms, like what you need to know, like what is behind building of your site. We're going to talk about the cheap option or the functional options. Okay, so you can have, you're going to pay a little bit more for functionality, but you can get a very inexpensive one. So I'm going to give you those options with some how-tos. It's not just going to be like, here you go, and drop you in. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to create the mood or tone for your site. Okay, does that sound good to everybody? If that sounds good, give me like a high five or a thumbs up or some kind of yeah. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about for your author site is like the basics. Like, I'm just going to explain some things to you because people are like, oh, thank you, Cassandra. Thank you. Because people are like, what is, like, it seems like so unknown. And you're like, what am I even paying for? What is all this stuff? And so the first thing, the thing that's most recognizable for everybody is your domain name and your URL. So if you're like, hey, authorlikeaboss.com or cassandramorgan.com, that's your domain and your URL. Now, you have to pay for that. And how does that work? So your domain name your URL, and obviously you guys, you want it to be your authorname.com if possible. So, or worst case scenario, Cassandra Morgan author.com. Okay. So, and those are fine. Both of those are fine. But when you're purchasing it, it's not like you actually own it for forever. It's more like you're leasing a car. Okay. So you're leasing a car, and when you lease the car, you own the car. Or author Cassandra Morgan. Yes. Yes. When you lease a car, you own it, it's yours, but you don't like own it. So your domain is like you're leasing a vehicle, but with the domain, you have the option to extend your lease for forever. Okay. So you can lease it for a year, you could lease it for 5 years, and then you can keep renewing that lease so that it's always so that you're always have the use of it. So that's your domain name or your URL. The second part of website is the hosting. Okay, so it's like hosting, what? Okay, so the hosting, if you imagine the World Wide Web as a ginormous market, okay, where there's like, oh, there's a CNN stall, and there's there's my donut shop stall. They have their site, and they have their site. If you imagine it as a huge market, the hosting is renting your space in the market. Okay. So if you're going to have a lot of traffic in your space on your site, in your hosting, then you're going to want to get a bigger stall because there's going to be tons of people coming in and out, and you have to pay for that traffic. When you're just starting out, you can rent a smaller space and get a cheaper hosting package because you're just starting out, but then you always with hosting have the option to grow. So does this make sense, you guys? Are you like, I want to know, does this make sense for you? Like the hosting, and I'm trying to explain this because it's very confusing if you don't know. Okay. So so that's the URL and the hosting, and the final part of building your website. Thanks, Cassandra. The final part of building your website is the software. Okay. Because you're not going to go out and do the coding by yourself. Okay. You're not going to be like, and then I'm typing in like a string of letters that don't mean anything to me. Okay. No, there is software available to make it super duper easy. Okay. So you don't have to learn HTML. You don't have to learn Java or CSS or whatever that stuff is. You just use the software, and we'll get into the different kinds of softwares in the next bit. Okay. So that's basically it. And those three things are where your costs will be. Okay. So you're going to lease your domain name. You're going to rent your space with your hosting, and you're going to use software instead of doing the coding on your own to set the space up with a professional look. Okay. So, good. I'm glad that makes sense for you guys. Thank you for the compliment. Okay. Marina, I'm going to look at your comment a little bit more later. Okay. Now remember, if you need some help, or you're like would love to have some help getting your website set up, this is something that we absolutely walk you through in the Author Boss Academy. You can always find out more about the Academy at authorlikeaboss.com or in the How to Author Like a Boss training this Friday. So the second point the second thing we're going to go over is the options for your software. So it's going to be like the cheap option or the functional option, or the more functional option. They're both functional, but one's cheaper than the other. So WordPress. So remember last time, like a minute ago, like 30 seconds ago, I was talking about software. So WordPress is a free software for building your website. Now, and it looks really, really, really professional. So with WordPress, the software is free. So what you're paying for is the domain and the hosting. Now, if you go for other site building softwares like Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, etc., you're paying for all three of those things: the domain, the hosting, and the use of the software. Okay, so whichever one of those that you guys decide to use, like whatever software that you use, whatever, it's always easier than you think. Like, they want it to be easy for you because they want you to continue to be a customer. Okay, I've always used WordPress and I really love it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, but I want you guys, we'll give you the information that you need to do it wherever, but I'm going to talk about WordPress. It has a number of these have free options. I like the WordPress free option, but it's a little bit low in functionality. And with all of them, the free options will either say like Weebly or WordPress in the URL. So you're like, my author, CassandraMorgan.wordpress.com. And so the free options always have something like that. But WordPress has a cheap option. They have a $40 package that includes a URL and your hosting for 1 year for $40. And I looked at all the website software, all the website services, and that was the cheapest I could find. So if I was like, this is the best deal of all of them, $40 for 1 year with the URL included and the hosting, and the WordPress software is free. Yes, you guys. And if you have any questions, I am plugging Cassandra Morgan's website. I hope it looks good. Okay, so that's the cheap one. It doesn't have the full functionality, but it still has good functionality. Okay, and it's if you want to see what it looks like, this $40, if you go to scarlettsinclair.com, that's mine. That's my author pen name that I haven't written anything with yet, but I'm going to, so I'll share that in the comments. Scarlett Sinclair, and Sinclair is S-Y-N. Okay, so that's the free one that I'm using, and you can see if it looks good or not. If you're willing to pay a little more for additional functionality, and I do recommend that if you can afford it, like it makes it easier to which really paying more for something gives you better quality and functionality. Yep. So I recommend purchasing your hosting and domain and installing WordPress. So remember, WordPress is free software, so you can pay for the hosting and the domain and then just use the free software. Every hosting company will have a one-click wizard to install WordPress because it's one of the top softwares for creating your website. So there's no worries there, and you can get decent hosting at like Bluehost or HostGator for usually for one site about $150 a year, and that comes up to about $12 a month. So not bad. Now, you can also, for those people, if you are on a different website service like Wix or Squarespace, I'm pretty sure you pay monthly with those. And again, it's going to be a little bit higher cost because you're also paying for the software. Whereas if you're not paying for the software with WordPress, okay? Does this make sense, you guys? I'm giving you options about where to go for price wise, and this is like a ton of information. But the next point. So now we're to the third point. So you know the cheaper options, the WordPress.com for the $40 or hosting in other places for a little bit more. But it's really, really easy install, okay? The final thing is about setting the mood on your site. So once you've installed WordPress or once you're on Squarespace or Wix or wherever you're at, and you're like, okay, now what? Okay, I gave them my money. Now how do I make what I want? Okay, so the next step is to pick a theme. Okay, a theme is basically a template for your site. Okay, so WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Weebly all have themes that provide the general setup. So let's go back to that booth in a market analogy. Okay, so the theme is like looking at your booth and being like, okay, the table goes over on the right, the chair goes in the back. I think I want to put some shelves over on this left wall. Like it's the layout. It's the layout of your space. So on a website that looks like, okay, logo and menu on top, and then you usually have some kind of image or slider is what they sometimes call it. And then you have, maybe you have blog posts underneath, or maybe you have an invitation to your newsletter, but it's not the colors or design, it's the layout. Okay? That's what the themes are. So when you're looking through the free themes that they're going to give you, they're going to be like, here's some themes. You're looking at the layout, not the color and design. You're like, okay, I like having the blog posts above my about information or whatever it is. Okay. So after you choose a theme that you like, and go ahead and the themes are usually pretty interchangeable, especially when you're just starting. So go ahead and click through them a little bit and be like, okay, oh, I like that one. Oh, no, not that one so much. Okay. Now you get to decorate your booth or your website. Okay. So the way to set the tone with this is the fun part. This is you're like, okay, now I get to paint the walls. I get to put up photos. I get to hang my favorite art. This is the fun part. And the way to do this, the best is to get really, really, really quality images. So go find or license, make sure they're licensed if you can, some images that feel like you, your book, and your brand. And they don't have to be fancy. If you don't license them, go to some place where they're free, like Creative Commons, like Pexels or Pixabay. Okay, so on Scarlett Sinclair, the image that set the tone the best for mine was the Scarlet Silk Sheets. Okay, so that's the image that I chose, and it sets the tone for the site. Now, if I had replaced those red sheets with a blue sky with some daisies or something, it's a completely different tone. It sets a completely different feel and vibe for the site, even though the layout hasn't changed at all, even though the theme is exactly the same. So go out and find some great images and pick a few and then put them in your theme and see how they look. And you're like, oh, that one. And you can play with this again. It's not like one image. You're not locked in. Just play with it a little bit. Okay, does this make sense, you guys? Morgan says she recommends Pixabay or Unsplash for finding images online. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Cassandra. Did I say Morgan? Thanks, Cassandra. Okay. Does this make sense to you guys? Is the analogy helping you to like get your mind around websites? Because I really want to make it a little bit easier for you guys, if possible. Again, if you're worried about the logistics, thanks, Cassandra. Cassandra, you are like really helping me. If you're worried about the logistics, or you're having a hard time, or you've tried it before already and you need more help, again, we invite you to come check out the Author Boss Academy with me and Megan. We have info session. We have like a training, how to author like a boss, on Friday. Okay. So it's time to take action, you guys. We're at that point of the webinar where it's time to take the training. Today's live. Go start a free website on WordPress.com. Okay, so I want you guys to get familiar. Anybody who hasn't done a website before, or you're like, okay, I don't know what to do, go start a website on WordPress.com. It doesn't even have to be book related or author related. It can just be a site about your cats, or it can be about dragons, or you don't have to tell anybody that it even exists, but get familiar with website software. And WordPress has the free getting familiar. That's why I recommend it. But go and play with it. Choose some different themes. Put some photos up. See what it looks like, so that you guys can, and you don't even have to share it with anybody if you're nervous about it. Just like, oh, this is a throwaway, and just have fun with it. And then as you've spent a little more time getting comfortable with the software, I mean, if you want to, you're like, okay, I'm making a site, go ahead and start with the free software, make your site, and then you can always upgrade. You can always upgrade. Okay. If you want help with building your website and what to post, technical issues, cost, etc., we can help you in the Author Boss Academy. What is in the academy, just before you do the training, you know, if you come to the training on Friday, you're totally welcome. But we have video tutorials, step-by-step worksheets, live calls, and a private Facebook group. If you'd like to find out more, you can come to the How to Author Like a Boss weekly webinar. And that is here at, if you want to sign up for that, it's at authorlikeaboss.com/how-to. Okay. Next week, you guys, now that you have the site that you've built and you're like, oh, okay, I got my images, it looks so good. Next week, we're going to talk about what to put on your author website. What are those pages that you need to have? You know, and it's not as many as you think. It's not like 50 pages, you know, but what are the basics and what do you put on your author website? That's what we're talking about next week, next Tuesday, same time, same place. But if you want a reminder of when I'm going live and when Megan is going live on Thursdays, if you want to get a Facebook message so that you don't miss these trainings live, you can sign up to get a Facebook message if you go to authorlikeaboss.com/notify, and we will notify you via Facebook message when we are about to go live. And that is it, you guys. and thank you for putting up with my bad hair / purple hat day. We are so grateful to have you here. Hugs and happy authoring.